Hi guys, and welcome back to Mod Studio. So as the thumbnail suggests, in this tutorial we'll be creating a banana tree within Speedtree. This is a step-by-step guide on how to do this. You'll be learning how to use the new front system within Speedtree as well as the new DSkew system in the leaf map generator. We'll be importing some banana fruit from Megascans, and I'll be adding some of my custom textures and objects that I've modeled for this tutorial. Link in the description down below, so don't forget to download them. And watch this video till the end so you don't miss any important tips and tricks that I'll be showing. So without any further ado guys, let's dive in. So guys, here in Speedtree, let's right click, add geometry, let's add our trunk. Let's head on over to the spine tab. Let's scroll up, let's take this down to a value of 10. Alright, let's add over to the skin tab. In the skin tab, let's set the absolute value to something like 0.65 or 0.6. Let's amend the blue curve so it's a little bit thinner, something like this. Alright, let's head on over back to the spine tab and let's scroll down. In the noise tab, in the late noise, let's put this to a very low value like 0.1, because a banana tree is kind of a smooth tree. So now it looks like this. Alright, so let's head over back to the skin tab, and in the blue curve, let's amend this top part so it's a little bit thinner at the top, like so. Alright, double click on this to give it a Bezier curve. Alright, so now let's create our fronds for the banana leaves. So let's select our trunk, right click, add geometry, and let's add branches, verification branches. And in the generation tab, in the mode, let's set it to follow taxi. All right, and let me quickly just see in the extend parent type, let's set this to any, so there's one at the top. Let's increase the internet nodal length, so there's a little bit more, like 1. And the first and last, let's adjust the first to a value of 0.5, somewhere like this. Okay, and let's set this to alternating discretus. All right, and let's give it a spiral value of something like 0.5 and take this down to 0.2. That's a bit too much. 0.35, let's put it to 0.4, something like this. Okay, now let's go back into the spine tab. Let's scroll down to the noise tab, and in the late noise, let's take this down to 0.2, something like that. So they're very, very smooth. All right, so now while we're here in the spine tab, let's go onto the orientation and adjust the angle. So we want the bottom ones to be angled more down than the top ones. And how we're going to do this is by amending the green curve in the tree mode. So as you can see, if you manipulate this a bit, you can see that the angle is more at the bottom than the top. So let's amend this so that the top part is a bit more up and the bottom ones are a bit more out. And in the gravity tab, let's amend this as well. All right, something like this. And let's go to the blue curve and amend this as well to suit your needs. Something like this, that shape over there. All right, let's double click on the nodes here to have a Bezier curves, something like this. And again, let's go to the green curve in trunk mode and amend so they're a bit more straight at the top, something like this. Let's go back into the generation tab and give it some more of a spiral effect, something like 1. Let's increase the amount to 0.3, something like this. And in the spine tab, to amend the angle a bit more, something like this. Okay, one more thing is we need this to be more of a curvier angle. For this to work, you need to go to the skin tab. In the skin tab, in the spread option here, let's increase the lower scale, something like this. And in the segments, let's increase the relative value to a 0.2 there, so there's more information in the geometry itself. Okay, so in the verification, let's go back to the spine. Let's decrease the late noise a bit more, so it's more smooth, something like this. In the front pieces, so in the skin tab, let's select that. In the radius, in the blue curve, let's take that down to 0, like nothing. Okay, and in the skin tab, let's go down to the squash parameter Let's set this to 0.5. Okay. But we want to rotate this. So in the rotate, let's put this to 0.5 as well. But we only want these parts to be squashed and not these parts. So in the green curve, let's amend so the top ones of the tree is a little bit less squashed. All right. And in the blue curve, let's amend where the squashing happens. Something like less there, more at the front. Something like this. Okay. Let's rotate this a bit more. All right. In the segments, let's go to the render view and let's put it to scribed. Okay. We need some more radial segments as well. So let's increase this to 6. Let's take it to 12. All right, and as well as the trunk, let's increase this as well to something like 6, and the length to 6 as well, something like this. That's a bit more smoother. And in the skin tab, let's amend the starting radius as well, so they're not that thick, something like this. All right, that looks good. Let's go back to the standard view. All right, okay, so now let's create the fronts that we're going to put up. So once you've selected your branches like this, let's right click, add geometry, and let's add the fronds. Okay, so now we have your fronds, and this is not looking like banana tree at the moment. So let's create our leaf material. So in the materials tab, let's hit the plus and minus icon, add new. Let's rename this to leaf and press OK. In the color tab, I have my leaves here. This is just Megascan's textures that I've downloaded. So let me select this one. And it will automatically load the rest if you name the naming convention right at the back. And in the cutouts, let's add our mesh. Okay, let's just make this a little bit bigger, something like this. And now let's use the new straighten mode in the leaf map generator. So let's select one. Okay, let's say for instance we want this one. Scroll out a bit here, align it as best you can, move it a bit to there, something like this. This one to over there. Let's make it a bit thinner. Okay. And after you've done this, just go over to the points mode and select this generation point mode. And now let's add our appropriate points that we want to use for the leaves, like so. This is a bit of a tedious process. You can do this in your DCC application like Cinema 4D or 3ds Max or Maya or Houdini, and just use a quad remesher tool or the new retopper tool in 3ds Max or something like that to do this a bit faster. But I'm trying to create everything here in Speedtree itself. So let's align these points in the middle of the spine, something like this. I'll add it for the lower res ones as well. Let's accept. And now let's go back to the materials tab and let's apply this to our front. Okay, and now you see they are disappearing at the top. In order for this to show now, let's go back to the settings and enable two-sided material like this. All right, let's go to the geometry in the boundary tab, the start setting. Let's push that a bit forward, something like that. All right, and let's squeeze the trunk or the stem shapes a bit more here. All right, let's go into the skin tab. Let's select this and add a point somewhere here. Just move this away so you can see something like this. And let's increase the segments again in the absolute value to 2, and as well for this to 12, something like this. All right. Okay, so now the next step will be to let's create the shader or the material for the bark and the stems. So let's head now over to the materials tab here at the top, plus minus icon. Let's create a new material, rename this to bark. Okay, and let's select a material. Let's use this one I've made. The link is in the description down below if you haven't downloaded it yet, to follow along with this tutorial. And let's add the normal, something like this. And the glossy, let's just reuse the albedo map as well. And increase the value to 1 and increase the normal to 2. All right, so let's add this to our trunk material like so. And as you can see, the UVs aren't looking great. So let's fix this. Go to the UV tab. Let's set the extinction style to full control, and the fractional, let's enable this. And in the V, let's set this to relative and the starting to end. And let's just move the offset Let's change this to start again, sorry. And let's move this. Let's increase the fractional value, decrease it, something like this. And now let's add some twist value to the trunk as well. All right, and the same applies for the fronds stems that are protruding out of the bark. Let's go to the UV tab, set this to full control and set this to relative and enable fractional. And let's decrease this value as well to something like this. And let's give it some twist value and let's decrease the scale as well. Let's just see here. There we go. So we need to fold our leaves a bit more to give that illusion of gravity. So in the frond, let's select our fronds. In forces, geometry, let's create the gravity. So let's give it some 1.9, 1.5. Let's amend the blue curve to suit our needs. So let's increase this, decrease that amount, double click here, something like this. Right, let's take this down a bit, something like this. Okay, and yet again, we don't want them to fold at the top. So let's select the green curve in the trunk mode, make it less fold at the top, something like this. Okay, so in the fold parameter, let's give it a value of 0.2. And again, let's go into trunk mode and decrease the amount at the top. Okay. To have more variation in your leaves, let's go to the cutout mesh of the leaf. Let's add another one. Okay, and edit. Let's say, for instance, we want this one over here. Yet again, let's use the new straighten function. Let's place it over there. Take it down, something like this. Align these points to suit your spine, like so. Let's amend this like so. There you go. Let's over to points. Again, the same process. Add this and that. Let's say done. So as you can see, we have another leaf and so on. So if you want to add another one, you can add another one. Let's say the hanging fruit or the bananas itself now. So let's select the trunk, right click, add geometry, and let's add our branches as well again. All right, so let's just set this to an absolute value. Set this to phylotaxy, alternating discotus. Okay, so there's the two ones. Let's increase the first and last. Internodal length, let's increase this as well. Let's go down to position. Let's take them down somewhere here. Let's increase this amount again. Something like this. Okay, change this to absolute. Let's give it a value of 2. All right, and put this to, increase this to about there and take them down to somewhere here. Again, let's head on over to the UVs. Extension style, manual, enable fractional. Let's increase that amount, something like that. Let's give it some twist. Let's set this to relative, and same applies to this as well. Let's decrease this amount to something like this. And in the skin tab, the spread amount, the lowest spread amount, let's increase that as well. Let's just quickly see the subdivisions of them. And then again, let's go on over to the segments. Increase the length value to about something like 3. Or let's double it to 6, and 6 for the radial as well, something like that. And in the skin tab, let's decrease the value again to something like this. In the spine, let's go down to the noise tab, late noise, and let's take this down to 0.2. And in the spine tab, let's scroll up to the gravity and introduce some gravity. In the spine length tab, let's take that away and put an absolute value of 2 to 1.5. Let's make it 2. And in the skin tab, let's decrease the front part here as well to something like this. All right. And in the segments, let's increase the absolute value to 2. There we go. So let's go to the standard view. And for the fruit, we'll be using some Megascans bananas I've downloaded. You can download them as well. So let's quickly create our material. Plus and minus icon, add new, rename this to banana. Okay, and in the color tab, let me just quickly load my banana materials. Yes, and there we go. In the model tab, let me just quickly load that as well. Yes, and there it is. Just a side note, in your host DCC application, I've imported this model from Megascans and just rotated it downwards. So when I apply it on my banana fruit stems, it will protrude in the right way it should. So for this to work, let's select our trunk. Back batched leaves by our banana. Okay. Orientation and upwards. And in the skin tab, let's decrease the amount. Here is a crucial part. Let's just take them at the beginning a bit down. Increase them here size wise and something like this. Okay, so now in the generation tab, let's go to file and taxi again. Let's increase the amount. First and last. Let's go to the, let's edit this. Yes, yes, load. Okay, that. Okay, so now let's go back to the batch leaves. Orientation, let's just mess with this values, something like that. And now generation tab, let's spiral them a bit so they interlock like that. And in the skin tab, let's decrease this amount because they're too small at the top. And the same goes for the bottom ones. And let's increase the amount till they're nice and full there, something like that. Let's give the skin or each banana a different size, but not too much, just subtle sizes, something like this. Okay, so now we need to create the folding dead leaves or stems at the bottom. Okay, so in order for this to work, let's select the tree, right click, let's add in trunks, let's add tubes. All right, in the skin tab, let's select the polygons and turn this to spline only. All right, so we have a spline there. But in the generation tab, let's set the generation to absolute steps and let's set this to 4 and then per step value to about 2. All right, so in the spine tab, let's set the value to about 5. All right, and in the generation tab, the first and last, the first value, let's set this to about 0.011 and 0.018. That I do this little staggering effect like this. Okay, so in the spine tab, let's give it some random values like 0.2, so not all of them are the same length, and let's decrease them like so. Okay, so now let's give it a starting angle of 0.495, something like that. And in the gravity tab, let's set the gravity to 0.6. Okay, and in the segments, let's increase this value to about 3 or 6 and invert this, so we have more points at the top and less at the bottom because it's not needed at the bottom. All right, so, and in the spine tab, let's give this an ancestor a 0.1 value, straightness 0.1 value, and so on. Okay, and in the gravity, let's amend this shape. Let's double click here and let's take it up a bit more, something like this. Give it a curve value there. Okay, and in the generation tab, in the roll, let's give a roll value about 2.5. So now let's apply our fronts to this as well. Add geometry, add fronts. Okay, so let's go create our front material, plus and minus icon. Let's add this, let's rename this to bark 2, press OK. And in the color tab, let's load this one. Let's load the normal. And let's give it a value of that. And let's load the albedo again for the glossiness value as well. Let's set this to 1. Okay, now let's add our mesh that I've modeled for this. And let's add that stem bark object. And let's orientate this so it works with the leaf there on the side. There we go. So now let's apply this bark material to that front. Okay, so let's enable the two-sided material effect as well. And in the front, let's go down to the boundary and set this to 0. Let's set the curl value to a value of 0.6. And let's go back to the trunk. In the skin tab, let's take this down so it starts to disappear within those. All right, meaning their size. So in the blue curve, let's start playing with this. Give it some values. That looks good to you. You squeeze the top ones, something like this. Let's take these two and let's move them up, position them more at the top. And let's reduce the gravity a bit more so it's not that. So now let's go back to the fronts for the lower part here. And let's just play again with the curl value here, something like this, and the fold value just a little bit. And in the trunk tube, let's go down to spine and let's give it some late noise, just very, very minute noise, like 0.5, just to break up the perfection there as well. Okay, so now if you want to do a wind animation, let's quickly show you this wind animation. Let's run the wind wizard. Let's set this to banana tree. As you can see, the bananas are jiggling, the fronds are jiggling, and that's not what we want. In order for you to fix this, let's select the batch sleeves. Let's go to the wind animation, and this value, let's put it down to 0.01. And the same goes for these fronds as well. Let's go to the animation, weight value, let's take it down to 0.01. So now they're stiff and they won't move. So if we increase the value of the wind, you have a perfect wind animation. Let's disable this. So the same principle that we've used for these, you'll be using for the lower dead curled leaves at the bottom. Okay, so guys, that is it for this tutorial. I hope you find this tutorial informative and that you've learned something. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I'll keep you posted for anything that will pop up soon. So stay safe and take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.